So we should have kept them in the office and put them on for this meeting. Clearly, Councillor Reid did exactly that. Welcome, sir. I'm Councillor Jeff Brooks, the leader of West Berkshire Council. I welcome you to today's executive meeting. Can everyone in the chamber please make sure you've switched your mobile phones to silent? Turn the sound off on your tablets or laptops, please. I'll do that myself in a moment because it will sing at you in a moment. So if we can quickly do that. I can hear something going on over there already, so thank you. I'd like to take the opportunity to remind members that we are subject to the Council's Code of Conduct, which requires us to uphold certain standards, including, importantly, respect. Members across the chamber may not always agree with one another, but I'd ask that in our disagreements, we endeavour to always be respectful of other people's views. I'd also like to ask that members of the public attending the meeting do not interrupt or speak outside of your designated speaking slots. And please refrain from approaching councillors unless invited to do so. So we have apologies this evening. I understand Sadie Owen from Councillor Patrick Clark and Vicky Poole.
That's correct.
And no others. We have
no others received.
Thank you. No others received. Yeah, thank you very much. I'd like to ask on pages 7 to 16, item 2, if members are willing to accept the previous minutes as an accurate record of the meeting held on 6th of November. I'm happy to propose those myself and have Councillor Heather Codling, Deputy, second them. Are we in favour of that? Can we please show by show of hands if we're in favour of that? That's unanimous. Thank you very much indeed.
Excuse me, Chair. Sorry, we've got apologies from Councillor Caroline Culver as well.
Okay, thank you. Leader to ask if the clerk, we have any declarations of interest?
No declarations of interest.
Thank you. Thank you. Public, hang on, I'm getting. Yes, and therefore we have accepted the minutes of the 6th of November. I'm looking for you to do that again for the minutes on the 12th of November. I'm proposing those myself. Looking for a seconder. I've got Councillor Codling again. All those in favour of the 12th of November? Thank you very much. Again, unanimous. And we're back on process with declarations of interest, none declared. We come to public questions then, the last of 2025. I'd like to thank all members of the public that have submitted questions for this evening's executive meeting and welcome those of you in attendance to hear the answer to your questions and to ask a supplementary question if you have one. We have some members of the public who are going to ask those questions remotely. I think if you take those off at the moment, please. I'm just doing an introduction. That's it. Leave it there, please, Thomas. And we welcome you both remotely and in the chamber. Your question will appear on screen, will be answered by the relevant portfolio holder. You will then be given the opportunity to ask a supplementary, but please remember that this must be to clarify the response provided and not introduce any new business. Please note that the time limit for public questions is restricted to 30 minutes, which won't start until the first question starts to be answered. And if your question has not been answered in that time, you receive a written response within 5 clear working days of the meeting. The responses given either verbally at the meeting or in writing will be published on the Council's website in due course. We're going to get, I would say better at that. We're going to make sure that they are in an accessible place, an easily accessible place on the website. Officers will be looking back over a 2, maybe even 3-year period in the future to see if that question or something like it has been asked. And in the event that it has been asked, we may be directing the member of the public to that answer that we gave whenever it was, unless there's an update to that answer. A little bit like the House of Commons, I refer you to the answer I gave sometime previously, because officers are running around answering questions which are very, very similar, which are more than 6 months old, because the members of the public know they can ask a question again after 6 months. But if it's substantially similar to or the same as a previous question, I think it's reasonable to refer them to a previous answer. I want to say before we get into the questions, and we're not starting the clock yet, that the frustration members of the public, questioners, evince about whether we answer a question directly, we are always going through the questions before the meeting saying, have we answered that question to the best of our ability? We are doing that. If you don't think we have, your supplementary gives you the opportunity to say, I don't think you've answered the question. And seriously, we're not trying to hide anything. I like questions. I was on BBC Radio Berkshire this morning. I had about 20 of them, and they came and I answered them, and I have no problem with answering questions. I have a problem with answering questions which are premature. And there are some tonight which are talking about what our budget will look like, and we're certainly not going to get drawn into what our budget will look like when it's not going to be agreed for at least 7 or 8 weeks. That may give frustration to the questioner, but there are good timings for when we can release information and when we can't. I'll also come back within one of the answers, personally, it is to me, about how the questions should be framed. We are looking for questions. We are not looking for opinions, often highly critical of the council, often highly critical of something we're doing, often coming to conclusion about something we're doing, which is an opinion. These are not Facebook posts, these are questions. And in the last 10 days, Sadie and her team have been working with the questioners to say, this won't be accepted with these statements you're making in the preamble to the question. If you'd like to rephrase it, we'll take it. And we've done that. We won't always do that. It puts an extra strain on our officers to, over a short period, go backwards and forwards to a questioner to say, seriously, you are putting your own opinion on this, and that's not what questions are for. And it sounds a bit as if I'm trying to close down discussion. I'm trying to close down opinions that can't be substantiated by questioners. I'm looking for questions because that's what this session is all about. Public questions and administration answers. I hope that's helpful. There will also be in the future, Sadie's team will point people asking questions to our website, where the sort of rules of engagement are quite clear, just to remind people what we're doing and what we're not doing here. I'm satisfied that our questioning process is better than many, many, many other local authorities, where questioners are restricted often to one answer per resident, to no supplementaries. We aren't going in that direction, but I want to clarify some of the things that in terms, but I'll end with this before we start proper, that we want your questions. Please bring them on. Thank you. The first one will be a written answer because I understand Rachel Gibbs has been called away. And so, Councillor Pemberton, your answer that you have ready will go through to Rachel Gibbs as a written answer. The second question is going to be taken by Councillor Ian Cottingham in Councillor Patrick Clark's absence. This is from Mr. Allen, who I believe would be in the... I can't see Mr. Allen. I think I would recognise him. He's online, that's fine. Yeah, is he? Mr. Bradbourne?
He's not online.
Mr. Allen is not in the meeting at all. Then he will get a written answer. Thank you. Moving swiftly on then, is Mr. Garvey in the waiting area? Is he in the meeting proper?
Mr. Garvey is in the meeting and he's rejoining as a panelist.
Okay, and that is to our portfolio order for finance and resources by Mr. Richard Garvey, please. Over to you, Ian. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for your question, Mr. Garvey. The balance of savings requirement for the 26-27 budget is currently being worked through by the council at present. The nature of these savings proposals don't require public consultation, as we are not proposing to cut frontline services. Do you have a supplementary question, Mr. Garvey?
Can you clarify where the bulk of the proposed savings, what departments bulk of the proposed savings will come from?
Not at this stage, as Chair has previously indicated, we're currently running through this, and it would be premature before we've actually presented the savings to the relevant governance, the budget set which will be next February.
And Mr.
Thank
Garvey, before you get a little bit disappointed, I want to reiterate that we are protecting frontline services here. I've seen Facebook entries from the Leader of the Opposition around, are we serious if we're only looking to save £63,000? That is what we've consulted on. We will have to make a lot of savings stroke efficiencies to bring the budget home in February. But we are protecting frontline services in so doing. And I make no apology, the administration makes no apology for that. I think it's a good result for people that we're only consulting on a small number, two things, one increased charges and one perhaps a reduction to a number of people on a service in adult social care. I'm quite proud of that, and I make no apology that we're protecting frontline services. I know Councillor Cottingham absolutely agrees with me on that, as do the rest of the administration, the executive. Thank you for that. The next one, Mr. Goatley, I don't know if you'll come forward, sir, and this is to the portfolio holder for Environment and Highways, Councillor Stuart Gorley.
Yes, thank you for your question, Mr. Goatley. All businesses that set up chairs and tables outside their premises on the public highway are required to have a table and chairs licence that is issued by the Traffic and Road Safety Team, and a fee is payable for that licence. As part of the licence application, the business is required to show that it has the appropriate third-party insurance cover for placing tables and chairs outside their premises. A licence will not be approved for issue without insurance being in place, and the business is responsible for any claims resulting from injury caused by their equipment placed on the highway. Do you have a supplementary question at all?
Firstly, thank you for your answer. No, I don't have a supplementary question because it was just a wondering which way it went, and you've answered it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have Mr. Morgan in the meeting at all? He's online. So, yeah, question E is to Councillor Ian Cottingham, please.
Good evening, Mr. Morgan. Thank you very much for your question. Yes, the 26-27 and longer term, medium-term financial strategy are currently under review. The plan figures will be published in the new year as part of the annual budget setting process, i.e. in February. However, the council, like a number of all councils across the country, are currently digesting and assessing the full impact of the local government finance settlement issued yesterday against the assumed figures, currently known as, from our perspective in Berkshire, as the unfair funding formula. Our initial assessment in West Berkshire is that we'll be one of the most negatively impacted councils in the country, and the effects of years of austerity measures from central government continues to compound the difficult decisions which we'll have to make in forthcoming years. However, I want to reassure residents we will not be the government's austerity agent, and we will ensure our residents continue to receive the services which they rely on, those frontline services. The figures provided within the financial improvement plan are indicative and predate the finance settlement which was announced yesterday. In respect of the reserve position, the council obtained exceptional financial support to strengthen our reserve position and support the delivery of the 25-26 budget, and has headroom to absorb any in-year overspends. The forecast reserve position forms part of the quarterly reporting process and will be reforecast after the close of the Q3 period, i.e. December, and communicated accordingly. The quarterly position will be further informed in anticipated total borrowing requirement in 25-26. Current data does not support borrowing exceeding 70 million in 25-26. Do you have a supplementary, Mr. Morgan?
Hi, can you hear me, everybody?
Yes, we can.
Okay, that's good. Good evening to everyone. Thanks for your response there. I think the only thing I picked out, maybe if you can clarify it for me, Councillor Cottingham, was that you said you will not exceed £70 million in this financial year borrowing, is that correct?
With the current information we have, that is correct.
Okay, great. So I understand that you're currently looking at budgets, so I won't push you any further in terms of providing other responses that I'd hope to you provide me with, but I understand why you're not being able to do that. I've looked today at the MHCLG update file, and the £3 million for this financial year is the only one that's been agreed in principle. So the additional stuff that you're looking for, maybe up to £15 million, has not been approved yet. So my supplementary question is, in light of this, is it not inevitable that the MHLCLG will insist on an in-depth review of your finances before any further EFS is provided to the council? So that's my supplementary, nice and simple.
Mr. Morgan, we're already in discussion with MHCLG, and on tonight's paper, Councillor Cottingham will be introducing a savings panel, a savings process, a fair intervention group, a fair assessment group. You'll hear all that later of how we're working with MHCLG. There's a SIPFA paper which I know you have read.
I have, yes.
In terms of how we are managing our finances in coordination with them. What I would like to add, and Councillor Cottingham might add something obviously later, is the fair funding formula is a disgrace for this district, an absolute disgrace. And what is even worse is the Labour MP for Reading and Midwest Berks is heralding it as a good thing for this district, and it is anything but, and you are going to be hearing a lot about this. I'm raising my voice not to you, Mr. Morgan. I'm raising my voice to the powers that be out there who have borne down dreadful austerity potentially in this area with their unfair funding formula. And I'm angry, and so should the residents of West Berkshire be angry, that with all the pressures we have here, legitimate pressures on adult social care and children, we are being punished so that areas up the country, like the Red Wall, are actually getting up to 24% more funding when we're getting up to 15% less, and probably more as we pick the bones out of it. It's an absolute disgrace. Councillor Cottingham.
I do understand your frustration, but with respect, my question is, do you expect the government to get more involved with the finances before they allow any further EFS? That's my question, really.
Yeah, so
I do understand your point.
Thank you, Mr. Morgan, for your supplementary. I can confirm that we're already part of this financial resilience process that's being performed on our finances. So we're in constant negotiation and contact with central government. They're well aware of the challenges which we face. As I say, the chief exec and the section 151 officer almost in monthly, weekly conversations.
Well, thank you. That's nice and clear. Thank you, Councillor Codlin, for answering that supplementary.
Thank you. Question F from Ms Gibbs will be another written answer. Question G, Mr Garvey. I'm taking this one as it says in the papers. And let's look at the question a little bit more detailed. When people ask questions, I believe many do so to question the political administration. Absolutely right. That's what we're here for, and that's what I said earlier. Bring on your questions. Because of this, all questions asked to be determined to be of a political nature. Fair enough. Okay. Perhaps they are. Perhaps they're a resident asking something about a road. I'm not sure how political that is, but so they're not all of a political nature, but quite a few are. Why is this administration allowed to pick or choose what questions to allow based on whether they deem the question to be political or not? No, quite wrong, quite wrong. You've asked a question here. It's not about them being political. It's about statements that are made in the preamble to the question, which are personal opinions. This is not a free hit, like a Facebook social media entry that says, I believe this, now here's my question. That's why we have worked with you, Mr. Garvey. I've done it with you on email directly over the last 2 weeks. You've done it with our officers, and you've adapted your questions, and most of them passed that test. So I'm not sure how this question can be perceived as us picking or choosing. We are choosing not to allow people to come in and make statements that can't be substantiated, which is their own personal view. So I hope that's helpful. And I do recommend that you look at the Constitution because it's very clear on this. We may reject a question if it's not about a matter over which the body to which it has been put has responsibility. It contains an excessive element of statement beyond the scope of the question. It is defamatory, frivolous, abusive, or argumentative. I think there's plenty of scope there for you to be able to be within those parameters and still ask a question. Has that addressed your question, Mr. Garvey?
Well, you won't be surprised if I say no. The reason my questions were rejected is because I specifically for this meeting, I inserted the words Lib Dem administration into all my questions because every time I ask a question, I get messages from employees of the council who are concerned about, councillors saying that I'm attacking the staff. I'm not attacking the staff when I ask.
Listen, hold on. I'm sorry, Mr. Garvey. I really tried to give you latitude. I don't want to hear about how staff message you. It's not because you said Lib Dem administration. Absolutely not. And you know what you had to, hold on, please. You know what you had to change to get your questions accepted. So we have accepted your questions. We're answering them this evening. And I'm not really going to allow a debate or a discussion about how staff are contacting you. That is up to them. They are individuals. I want to move on, frankly, because you're drawing me into areas that, frankly,
I don't want to draw you into debate. I was just, if you let me ask my supplementary, I promise it's nothing to do with that. I was just simply mentioning why I had used the words Lib Dem administration in all my questions for this meeting, and that's why. My supplementary is that in one of the responses from the officers, I was told that per something in the Local Government Act, I can't ask a question that could impact the support of a political party. In the last 3 years, or almost 3 years that you've been running the council, there have been various questions that were asked that could potentially damage the Green Party or the Conservative Party. So my question is why, again, going back to the original question, who decides, as in, is it the Lib Dems that decide what questions that could be answered, or is it the staff?
Okay.
Okay, sorry.
Got it, Mr. Garvey, forgive me. I'm sorry to talk over you, but I think I get the thrust. You're asking who decides. I'm telling you, officer, Mr. Garvey, please. Officers will decide against the parameters that I've given. Now, I'm being advised also, in the Local Government Act, you can't ask a question that is derogatory. Nikki, would you like to give some clarity here, please?
Thank you, Leader. Thank you, Leader. Unfortunately, a local authority cannot publish anything that may be perceived as supporting a political party or be to their detriment. We're not allowed to publish that, and we're not allowed to do anything in support. So that would prohibit us publishing any question that may mention a political party and potentially either demonstrate support or otherwise.
So for the avoidance of doubt, Mr. Garvey, I am not picking or choosing questions. I'm asking them to be made in a respectful way without, I'm sorry, I'm getting further indications here. Who does? I'm not taking Councillor McKinnon, you can tell him that. Or I've just told him.
Yes, it's a point of order, Councillor Brooks.
No, this is public questions and I'm not taking you.
I think Nikki's just said something inaccurate and needs to be corrected.
I'll take that later. I'm not taking it now. Mr. Garvey, you bring on your questions. Democratic Services will decide if it is at all critical or making political statements as I have described. You bring on your questions, be respectful. I'm trying to be extremely respectful to you. I'm engaging with you outside of this chamber. I've done that ever since we came to power. If you're respectful to us, we'll be respectful to you, I promise. We'll answer your questions, I promise, and we'll move on, hopefully, with respect on both sides, sir.
Thank you.
Okay. And I'm sure Councillor McKinnon will be able to weave that in later in the meeting. Question H, I think I'm on to Councillor Foote from Mr. Goatley, if you'd like to come forward, Mr. Goatley.
Thank you very much, John, for your question. There's no evidence to support the suggestion that high-ranking officers have misled the public or the executive in connection to the report. Do you have a supplementary question?
Right, so on that one. The Scrutiny Commission does give evidence or believed there was evidence, and all I'm saying is that is there a flaw in the Constitution that where somebody perhaps very high up or even has the job of sorting this out is implicated, therefore shouldn't it go further, a bit like the police when they stuff up something, it goes up higher?
Hold on,
for some
hold on,
sort out.
hold on. I'm going to ask for officers of advice here. Who have we got here? Sarah? Sarah, did the report, as Mr. Goatley seems to be inferring, suggest there might have been maladministration? I'd like you to address that, please.
So I'm not the author of the report that is presented to executive tonight, but I am aware that the Task and Finish group had a number of conclusions, and that was presented to the Scrutiny Commission. I believe that the Scrutiny Commission rejected the suggestion by the Task and Finish group. So it is incorrect to say that the Scrutiny Committee had made those recommendations. Furthermore, the purpose of scrutiny is to undertake reviews of work that the council has done or is proposing to do, to make recommendations to executive, and the process is that it is for the executive to determine whether to accept any of those recommendations. So the executive is the decision-making body.
Ms. Goatley, do you want to rephrase your supplementary?
Well, it's slightly difficult because I haven't got the report in front of me, but I'm just sort of thinking that if there's misleading or anything like that that's gone on at a high level, there should be a procedure above that.
Well,
I think it's just, save people in effect.
Well, I think, I don't know, that Councillor Culver may have referred her own report, I say her own report, she wrote the initial report, to the Ombudsman. She may have done that. We'll see what if that's happened and what he or she says. Councillor Foote wants to come back, and then Mrs. Clark wants to come back. Councillor Foote first.
Chair, if I may, I'll just carry on and do my best to answer that supplementary question. And John, it's important to note that under the legal and professional obligations of the monitoring officer, any instance of maladministration must be reported and addressed regardless of the individuals involved. This duty applies consistently to ensure transparency and accountability. Thanks, Chair.
Mrs. Clark, did you want to come back again?
Well, Councillor Foote has put that very eloquently. I think all I would add is that I am aware that this matter has also been referred to the Ombudsman. The Ombudsman has, by a member of the public, and the Ombudsman has refused to investigate that matter on the basis that this has been adjudicated upon in the High Court. So I think that is a matter of now of public record.
Thank you, Mr. Goatley.
Okay, thank you very much.
The next one, question I, is from Mr. Morgan. I'm going to answer the one point in it, which I'm going to reject. And then Councillor Codingham will answer the point about the capital programme. The CIPFA report does state that roles and responsibilities between members and officers are blurred, which contributes to a lack of focus and undermines accountability. I totally 100% reject it. We are sent here to work with officers to get the best services for our residents. And where we are subject matter experts, we bring that expertise here. Councillors have expertise, huge amounts of expertise. I brought recruitment and staffing and skills expertise here, and I used it to bear down on our freelance population, which is saving us up to £5 million a year. Should I have withheld that and said I can't get involved in operational matters like that? It's a complete and utter fallacy. Now, I respect the officers from CIPFA, but I said that to them when they presented the report to us. There clearly is a line between councillors and officers, but it's symbiotic. We assist where we can. We bring operational excellence where we can. We suggest changes where we can. Where they have statutory duties, they are quite entitled and legal obligations to reject some things we suggest and recommend. But where they make sense, I expect them to use them. We have people across the chamber with real skills. I'm looking at you, Councillor Abbs. You have terrific skills in environment and other areas, in IT. Would we not use those? We'd be foolish not to. And therefore, I do reject that entirely, but I obviously appreciate what Cipra is saying. There are councils up and down the country where members get involved in writing letters to residents who are so much in the weeds, it is beyond what is realistic. But I refute that, and you can tell that it's got under my skin a bit, because if you've got expertise around you, you use it. Councillor Cottingham will talk about his experiences in finance and risk management. There is terrific experience across this chamber that we want to use, and I know the Chief Executive wants to use them. The Chief Executive doesn't want us to come in one day and sit in planning and tell them how to do their job. I get that. But where we can make suggestions and recommendations, they should be welcomed for the benefit of our residents. Councillor Cottingham.
Thank you, Chair. Once again, thank you for your question, Mr. Morgan. And sort of building upon what leaders said, earlier today we had the financial review panel looking at adult social care. So we were there as a critical friend to analyse variances, improvements, how we can get the budget back on track. And it was very much a team effort. Everyone in the room, and the fact that as leader said, it would be a miss of the organisation not to utilise the resources of members. It was derogation of duty. So building upon early discussion, we'll see later on within the financial improvement plan, the council is establishing additional forums to assist the oversight of all spend, including the capital spend. We now have additional forums that cover the capital spend, capital assets group, spend panel, financial improvement group. From a capital programme perspective, the decisions relating to capital projects which proceed cancelled or postponed has and always remains with members. And you'll probably appreciate the fact that at this stage, it's too early for us to be able to say which ones are going to be continued, postponed, rolled over until we formalise the 26-27 budget. It's always an ongoing process to look at what we can deliver with the resources, and typically we've always had a roll-on programme. Do you have a supplementary question, Mr. Morgan?
Mr. Morgan, back to you, sir.
I'll just get myself on mute, Councillor Brooks. Can you now hear me?
Can.
Yeah, I just a couple of points before I ask my supplement. Yes, I agree with your points about members and officers, Councillor Brooks. I'd also suggest that there's lots of members of the public who can provide lots of very useful advice and guidance, and I would urge the council to actually take advantage of that. I think that'd be very useful, especially in the financial situation the council now find itself in. So I'm just addressing your points. I'm agreeing with it, but also asking to add more than the members and officers to that, Councillor Brooks. That said, yeah, I've mentioned before on executive questions the solar farm at Graiseley a couple of times. I've also mentioned a topic for scrutiny, which talks about the lack of reports and transparency about some of the big projects that are going through. Having said that, it must be inevitable, surely, that some of these programmes, especially as lots of money on the capital is now being replaced and paying back existing loans, it's inevitable that you have to start looking at some of these projects and saying, look, is it affordable?
If your question, Mr. Morgan, I'm rushing it. I'll tell you why I'm rushing you. I'll tell you why I'm rushing you.
Well,
I've only got about 4 minutes to complete questions. I want to do that, Mr. Morgan. So please question very quickly, sir.
Well, that's why I said I have made it quite clear in there. I said it's inevitable that you have to start looking at all of these projects that are going forward and say, are they affordable? Should we be doing it?
Mr. Morgan, we didn't say we wouldn't be. Councillor Cottingham said we would be. And you would see what that comes out to in the budget papers when they come out later or early next year. And we're not going to go through a discussion about that this evening, sir.
Okay, well, I take what you're saying, but I think it's.
I'm going to move on.
You're right,
Mr.
that I do.
Ever so sorry, I'm going to move on because I want to get through the next three questions. The next question is again from Rachel Gibbs, and that will be a written answer. Then I have two from Mr. Garvey, and if I don't rush on to get those two done and time him out, I'll be wrong again.
Yes.
So I'm going to rush on to question K, which is again to Councillor Cottingham.
Thank you once again, Mr. Garvey, for your question, which confirms our diversified approach to delivering budgetary savings. Bit of a theme from my own professional experience. I project managed a 3-year, 100 million target cost assurance programme when I was at France Telecom Orange, which did deliver over 120 million of savings across its international footprint. I had a portfolio of saving ideas. The key to success was to back the winners and not to waste resources on unachievable projects when circumstances outside of our control changed. Hence, my previous statement, it's not always possible to deliver all proposed savings. Do you have a supplementary question, Mr. Garvey?
But surely the proposals and potential savings are analysed on an ongoing basis, and what makes it into the actual budget. This isn't a forecast, this is the budget. That's what you expect to achieve, or certainly in every multi-trillion dollar company I've ever worked in, like Tesco, Asda, Morrison's, and even running my own multi-million-dollar revenue
Moving
businesses.
along, Mr. Garvey, or so I won't get to your next question.
My supplementary question is, surely a budget is what you expect, not a forecast, which is what you hope.
Right, so I spent quite a long time working in budgetary control. The budget is the representation of what you know at that period of time. So the good illustration, NRS went bust. We had there in the budget a saving. It went bust 6 months later before we were able to deliver a saving. So that saving went. So there are circumstances where you have to change your strategy because there are things which are outside of your control to be able to deliver. Always the case, and that's when you have contingencies in your plan.
Yeah. Question L, again from Mr. Garvey, but this time to Councillor Codling, please.
Thank you for your question, Mr. Garvey. Yes, SEND spending is a significant challenge nationally, and West Berkshire is no exception. But residents whose children need SEND support for their children are not fed up. They value highly the support we give them, and I make no excuses for doing this. Our priority is to ensure every child gets the support they need while using taxpayers' money responsibly. The biggest cost in our SEND budgets are specialist placements, transport, and specialist staffing and support services. And we continue to work to reduce the pressures via various means, and these include expanding local provision. We have additional places opening at Castle School soon, and early intervention, so strengthening support in mainstream schools to meet needs earlier and avoid escalation. Do you have a supplementary question?
I do. Quick point of clarification. Obviously, all these children should get the support, and I don't think anybody is suggesting they shouldn't, and I don't appreciate the suggestion that that might be why I'm asking this question. My supplementary would be, has the council done any work about what potential savings could be achieved in some of these areas by providing the services themselves as opposed to using private contractors? We recently saw minibus companies, for instance, making large amounts of money.
We get it. We don't need the
Have we
example.
looked at doing it? Well, have we looked at doing these things in-house? And what savings? Thank you.
We get the question. Don't need the example. That's great. I'm conscious of time. And I think it's a very good challenge to us, and it would be a good challenge to councils up and down the country, Mr. Garvey. Councillor Codling.
We already do an amount of work in-house wherever possible, for instance, iCollege, and we actually have that support within our group. We have educational psychologists. We are working towards that on a greater footing, but it takes time to build.
but it is true to say, isn't it? Because you and I have discussed it with Anne-Marie Dodds, with the Chief Executive. How much more can we provide in district? It's more expensive if children have to go outside of district for the specialist needs they require. It's being looked at all the time, Mr. Garvey, and there's certainly savings to be made there. So you've hit upon something, and I'm not just saying don't worry about it, we're doing it. We do worry about it, and we need to do more of it. And I'm grateful to you for that challenge, sir. And I think we're done through the public questions. Thanks, everybody. Thanks to members of the public for asking. Keep bringing them on within the parameters of what I've suggested is the way to do so. I move into item 5, which is petitions. I normally forget it, but
No petitions
no
received.
petition tonight. Thank you very much. Our first report then is item 6, devolution, expression of interest in Thames Valley Mayoral Strategic Authority, and it will be introduced by Justin Pemberton. We will need a proposer. That will be you, I presume, Councillor Pemberton.
Yes.
And I will second this as a leader who's been heavily involved. So Councillor Pemberton, you to introduce it, sir.
Yes, thank you very much indeed, Leader. So, members, you'll see the report in front of you. I'm going to read out the recommendations and then make a short statement, similar to what I said at full council a few weeks back, with a few sort of updates based on events that have taken place since. Those recommendations are that executive is informed of the benefits of the proposed devolution of powers and functions and agrees to continue building on the collaborative approach across the region to date. That the executive agrees that an informal devolution board will oversee discussions with government, ensuring robust governance and stakeholder engagement by elected members throughout this process. That the executive approves the expression of interest to submit to government, noting that the expression of interest is designed to proactively position the Thames Valley for early consideration in the next wave of the devolution programme, and that the executive supports that a further report will be brought to council and executive to any prior to any final decision on the creation of a strategic authority, however that may look and whatever geography it may cover. So the background to this is that the government's white paper set out plans for nationwide devolution and local government reorganisation, making clear that all of England will be devolved by default. If local leaders do not act, central government may impose devolution arrangements through legislation. In response, councils in the Thames Valley are considering submitting an expression of interest to establish a mayoral strategic authority, and other local authorities are a little bit ahead of us on this and have already signed the letter, which we're looking to submit fairly soon. Mayoral strategic authorities already cover around 60% of England and are primarily focused on driving economic growth through strategic planning, infrastructure investment, skills development and attracting industry. A mayoral strategic authority would also support public sector reform by reducing fragmentation across local government and other public bodies such as health, police and fire services, allowing decisions and function and funding to be managed closer to local communities. While the governance details of a Thames Valley Mayoral Strategic Authority are not yet defined, it is expected, or we're hoping it to include an elected mayor and a board made up of council leaders. Devolved authorities have already received significant funding nationally where they've been established elsewhere, particularly in areas of transport, of housing, skills and regional development. Securing this type of funding is seen as crucial to ensuring the Thames Valley does not miss out on future investment. So, although the Thames Valley region performs well economically, growth has not recovered as strongly as we might have liked post-COVID. And what we're saying is a mayoral strategic authority would strengthen the region's strategic voice. It would improve engagement with some of our major industries, and it would help unlock investment. The proposed expression of interest is intended to signal a shared commitment to strong regional leadership that can build on existing strengths and address infrastructure and housing challenges and support long-term prosperity across the Thames Valley. Now, earlier this month, the government made what some may describe as an unexpected announcement that the election of 4 new proposed regional mayors planned for 2026 would actually be delayed, until 2028. So those affected areas were Greater Essex, Sussex, Brighton, Hampshire and the Solent, and Norfolk and Suffolk. So I think it would be naive to suggest that there isn't going to be a knock-on effect for the Thames Valley area, depending on where we eventually get to. The timetable for establishing a mayoral strategic authority may potentially have shifted, but I don't believe the fundamentals have shifted. I think that the opportunity remains the same. I think the economic benefits that it will bring to our district and bring to our region will remain the same. I think there's a real opportunity here for greater investment, for stronger partnerships, and a louder voice in national decision making. And I think that remains the right direction. And I would close, Leader, by saying that this Labour government took office on a manifesto pledge to widen devolution to more areas, and also encouraging local authorities to come together and take on new powers. That was a very bold vision that the government made. The government has made some progress. I would argue it's not made as much progress as it would have liked. But I think notwithstanding the recent announcement from central government, I think there should be a call to Labour to renew its enthusiasm for this important agenda, because I believe it will deliver better growth and reinvigorated local democracy across England. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you, Councillor Pemberton, and I'll throw it open to the administration, the executive, to make comments. I'll reserve my right until I've heard all the contributions before we get to the recommendation. Don't forget, this did go through council, so it has been well rehearsed and was supported across the council by most members. So any other contributions from executive members? Contributions from Councillor Abbs to start with in the room.
Yeah, thank you very much, Leader. Just a simple one, really. Obviously, in the financial part of the paper, it says everybody's agreed to set £10,000 aside. I'm just wondering if that's now realistic, given your statement just now, Justin, about delays. How is that going to be spent? Should we not be assigning more money? Or can we just delay this and, in fact, save 10,000 from next year's budget? How do you think it affects things, given the delay in the elections?
Okay. Who is? Okay. We'll come back at the end with all the responses. Councillor Bowick, good evening. Councillor Bowick, we can't hear you in the room.
Good evening. Just setting up my call. Thank you, Leader. And thank you, Councillor Pemberton. We have indeed discussed this before, and on our side of the chamber, we support it, broadly speaking. And I'm going to go, if you forgive me, go back to something I asked before, which is around the demonstration of measurable benefits that we expect to see for our children, young people, and especially our most vulnerable children. And I'm not sure I had a particularly strong response when I asked this before. So my question is, if you can't demonstrate or expect to be able to demonstrate the specific and measurable benefits, will you bring these proposals back to full council after formal scrutiny of the proposals before this goes further? And I'm thinking about the Children and Young People's Scrutiny Committee in respect of this question. Thank you.
Absolutely grateful for that, and we will cover that, no problem at all. Have I got any other questions? I've got Councillor Taylor.
Yeah, I think I'll just be quite brief, because I know I spoke on this at full council, but just to say that I do support, I think, pretty well everything that Councillor Pemberton said with regards to this proposal, and we may not be in total agreement on this side of the bench, as it were. And I think Labour's, has announced these proposals with some, as far as I'm concerned, with great enthusiasm. Although I know that that's the only area where perhaps I would disagree with you, but I will pass back your comments to my contacts in the Labour Party. But I support what you're doing here. I think it's quite right that the questions around young people and perhaps wider questions, this should go to scrutiny, and I would fully support that happening. I think that's really all I want to say.
Have we any others from the room or outside the room? Okay, I'll pick up a couple of points. Councillor Bowick, I think we said at the council meeting that this will spur a firm, comprehensive submission to the latter part of 2026. And all that work is being done on the benefits right across residents' services, children, how they can benefit. So watch this space, I think, is the way to respond to you, because that will certainly come back to council October, November next year. It'll be subject to the normal process, full council, scrutiny, executive. All of that will be part of the process of putting in a fully costed, comprehensive submission in the way you saw our local government review submission. So long way to go on this, but I do hope, and I'm saying this to Councillor Taylor in a way, that you don't lose momentum. You don't lose momentum because you're worried you'll have a lot of Lib Dem mayors, because you lose a lot of elections when the elections come up for the mayors. Get on with it. It's the right thing to do, and it shouldn't be that political. It will be political, but it's a 40-year, 50-year play. So it's not about the next 5 years, it's about the next 50 years. And so, whatever influence you have, Councillor Taylor, tell them to, get on with it with energy and vim and vigour. So we know it's the right thing to do at this stage. We know there'll be a much more fully comprehensive submission at the back end of next year. And we would look forward potentially to a mayoral election in 2027, 2028. We'll see what happens. By 2029-30, I would imagine this government will be under pressure. There's an election coming up. So why don't we just make progress? Councillor Pemberton, did you want to wrap the conversation? Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Leader. So, Councillor Bowick, I'm more than happy for this matter to come through your scrutiny committee. When we discussed LGR, it came through the other scrutiny committee. I came along and answered questions, and I think it's absolutely right and proper that we do that. I would emphasise as well that there's still a fair way to go on this. I mentioned it at council. At the moment, we are literally submitting an expression of interest. So there will be lots and lots of process that we need to go through. And as I introduced the report, I did say that when we get closer to hopefully knowing or having a better idea what this will look like, it will come back through the council processes for our members to comment and vote upon. I don't want to repeat the comments that Councillor Brooks has made, because they were very eloquently made, and I haven't got a huge amount to add to them. But when I think of the education piece more generally, there is a real opportunity here to do things in a more joined-up way. When I look, for example, at some of the work that the Berkshire Prosperity Board do, even now, around the Growth Hub, around the skills boot camps, around the careers hubs and the Connect to Work schemes that the Department for Work and Pensions are involved in, they're excellent schemes, but they're very, very fragmented. So it's just about looking in a more strategic way of approaching our skills and our education piece. So hopefully that provides a little bit of extra reassurance as well. And finally, on Councillor Abbs's points around the funding, look, we still need to do the work to support a mayoral strategic authority if central government gives us a favourable response to this expression of interest. So I don't think it's a particularly good idea to be taking what is, a relatively small amount out of the budget. It still needs to be there potentially if and when things happen. Thank you.
Grateful to everybody who's contributed. I need we have a proposal, Councillor Pemberton. I'm the seconder. All those in favour of this being put forward to HCLG, thank you very much. That's unanimous. Got that, Sadie. And we move on to item 7, the Finance Improvement Plan. This will be proposed, I believe, by Councillor Cottingham. I'll second it. Again, I'll talk at the end of any discussion. Councillor Cottingham, over to you, sir.
Sorry, excuse me. Thank you, Leader, for that introduction. So this paper is proposing improvement in the governance of how we run the council finances regarding additional oversight. This has come about through, as we've spoken earlier, regarding EFS, but also us commissioning independently a separate report, which is part of the recommendations of improving our own governance and oversight. There is an extracted part of the report attached as an appendix within this improvement plan. I would like to bring members' attention and members of the public, if they're all able to see the report, to almost the organisational chart stroke governance on page 50, which shows the reporting line of where the proposed financial improvement group sits, FIG, interacts with the financial review panel, which was put in 2 years ago, along with the newly formed spend panel, and also the additional governance boards which we have within the council itself. What this means for us is we're going to be leveraging on external expertise. Like any world-class organisation, you're always looking for new ideas, new ways of working, the way in which we can change, the way in which we deliver the services, and improving the financial efficiency of these services. So there'll be 2 independent, I suppose in some ways non-executive members of the FIG group, who are in their own right or well established in local government, be able to provide insight into the way in which processes deliver and looking for improvements. I know there's a slight contradiction in the report. It says the FIG will meet every 6 weeks and then says every 8 weeks. I think we'll probably will be in that region of between 6 to 8 weeks. It'll move. And this report is requesting financial assistance to pay one of the individuals, which I believe one of them is going to do it free of charge.
I believe the LGA is covering one of the
LGA is covering one of them.
The roles.
So that's where we are.
Grateful to you, Councillor Cottingham. As you say, all good organisations look for expertise, including member expertise within what we can achieve. Any other comments from the executive members? I throw it over to Councillor McKinnon. Good evening to you, sir.
Good evening. Greetings from Birmingham. Can you hear me, Leader?
Yeah, the line's pretty good from Birmingham. You'd think you were next door.
Excellent. I'm not sure if I suffer from a bit of a short-term sleeping issue, but I don't believe that Councillor Cottingham referred to the SIP for reports at all there. Is that the case?
I did.
He says he did. Do you want to be more specific what your issue is?
Well, I've got quite a few issues here. I mean, the gravity of the situation that the council finds itself in here necessitates quite a lot of questions. And I'm sure you're not going to want to shut down scrutiny of this report in
I just want
any manner.
It's like the questions they get.
Okay. Why did you commission SIPFA to write this report?
It's a good question.
It was to Councillor Cottingham, Leader.
No. I'll chair the.
Okay.
Councillor McKinnon, I'll chair the meeting as I'd like to chair it, please. It's a good question, and we'll answer it to your satisfaction, I hope. I believe the Chief Executive would like to come in. It makes sense when you're asking MHCLG for extraordinary financial support or the ability to borrow money, frankly. Let's remember they don't give us money. That in order for them to be satisfied with doing everything we should be doing, we have embarked on this process. Councillor McKinnon. I don't know if you want to add anything to that, Chief Exec?
Yeah, thank you very much, Chair. So for any council in receipt of exceptional financial support, they must have an external review undertaken, and SIPFA are the leader in undertaking these at a range of other authorities. And I think if I just look towards our 151 officer, I think SIPFA have the contract going forward as well for all future reviews.
Thanks, Mr. Holmes. So the reason for that requirement to get SIPFA to do an external review, presumably, is because it wouldn't suffer from the same bias or perceived bias that an internal review would cover. That's not a slight on anyone working within the council, but it's in the same way that you wouldn't be allowed to audit your own finances. Would that be the case, Mr. Holmes?
Well, you wouldn't mark your own homework. That's why we gave the chair of scrutiny to a member of the opposition, which your administration didn't, of course. Councillor Cottingham, did you want to add anything to that?
I think this is good governance to have the confidence to have an independent pair of eyes as oversight. And also we've had the confidence to give an extraction of the report. There was no requirement for us to do so. We've done so in good faith.
Well, lovely. In which case then, can I run through a few conclusions of the report and ask whether or not you accept them?
Well, bring it on.
Yeah, that's okay, is it?
Bring it on.
West Berkshire Council is in a perilous financial position and has no clear plan for resolving the issue. Do you agree with that statement from SIPFA?
No.
No, you don't agree with that one. Okay. Do you agree with the fact that there's a perception within the council that the successful application for EFS in January 2025 obviates the need to address this structural gap?
Certainly not. We made that very, very clear to officers. And we've had a lot of robust conversations in various budgetary meetings over this, the need to fix the structural gap which we see as our council.
So just to clarify then, Councillor Cottingham, you don't accept that finding by the independent experts from the Chartered Institute of Public Finance Accountants?
So the gap which they are looking at, it was different to what we actually face.
They weren't in possession of the correct information, is that the case?
Well, they were looking at a period of time. So when they did the review was in the prior to Q2 results. So the financial information which they were looking at wasn't the most updated information which you have at the moment. It's just when they did their review. It's just the timing of when it was performed, which was done in Q1.
Thanks for that, Councillor Cottingham. So when they did their review, you don't agree that there was a perception within the council that the successful application for EFS obviated the need to address this structural gap. They're wrong in that statement based on the information they had in front of them.
And we told them that was the case when they presented the report to us.
And did they not accept your position on that?
Well, that's what's gone into their report. That's their view.
Okay.
And can I answer the question?
Oh, please.
So you've worked in finance a number of years. You've had internal audit reports done. You've had the opportunity to go back to internal audit, no doubt. And the position which they've said to you, you may have disagreed. And that's all part of having that adult conversation.
Okay. I have some more conclusions that I'd like to know if you accept. Existing savings plans are largely short-term and do not address the underlying structural issues. Whilst there's a recognition of the need for efficiency savings, there's insufficient consideration of cash savings by stopping activities or by introducing more fees and charges. Do you accept that conclusion?
Hold on. We're not going to do a yes/no to all your questions.
I'm asking about a specific conclusion from the report, and you really don't want to shut this down, Leader.
I'm not shutting it down at all. I'm saying the way you're putting these questions is very rumpole of the Bailey. Do you accept that? I put it to you. We'll answer them with more, we'll amplify the answer, we'll add to the answer. It's not straight yes or no's. So
that'd be lovely, Leader. But I tell you what, the reason why I'm putting it this way is because you indicated to Mr. Morgan in your reply earlier that you didn't accept one of those conclusions. So I'm just keen to know which one did you do?
I certainly didn't accept one. And there are others we don't accept in their entirety. SIPFA came in and did a short, sharp burst on this.
Leader.
We're not compelled to agree with everything they say on a short look at it. We respect what they say to us. We respect what they say to us. Councillor Cottingham.
I will answer a question. And yes, I think there is significant scope to increase the commercialisation of what we do as a council. There are opportunities of selling services. We've looked at Shaw House as a good example, where it's lost money for a number of years under numerous administrations. And it is something which we probably, not our own administration, but previous administrations haven't looked into greater detail of how we sweat these assets and charge more for the stuff which we have as a council.
And we accept that. If you look,
so Leader, are we saying then that we accept the fact that existing saving plans are largely short-term and don't address underlying structural issues?
Refer to the chair, please. I'm trying to manage a meeting.
I did say Leader.
Refer to the chair, please. I'm trying to manage a meeting. We have done some tremendous things in terms of managing budgets and finding savings. They have been overwhelmed, frankly, as you well know, up and down the country, councils are being overwhelmed by the demand of SEN and demand of adult social care, such that 34 councils are already in EFS, and we believe that'll go up to 70 quite soon. Keep a context to this, because I'm going to make sure we keep a context to this. So please continue.
Leader, in all seriousness, I mean, you described me as being a bit like Rumple of the Bailey earlier on. Now, I know I've put on a wee bit of weight recently, but I think that's pushing it a wee bit. A resident reading this report, which is the most damning criticism of a council administration from an independent body I have ever seen, a resident reading this report will want to know if the administration is just going to pay lip service to this report and put it away, or whether they accept their findings. So I will move on. You've mentioned, and I don't know who this is to, because Councillor Brooks, you're going to jump in and answer it anyway, I'm quite sure. I'm sure when I lead the council, I'll have a wee bit more confidence myself and my portfolio holders. But there's a point in the report here that says that roles and responsibilities between members and officers are blurred. It contributes to a lack of focus and undermines accountability. Do you accept that conclusion? Councillor Brooks?
John, I answered that at some length to Mr. Morgan earlier. I don't know, perhaps you weren't in the meeting, but I totally refuted that and said,
so we reject that one as well.
Said it to SIPFA. You heard me say it. So yes, we had a robust conversation with SIPFA where we said, you're onto something. You're onto something here. And we're putting in place savings bodies. We're putting into place on page 50, we're putting into place a weekend culture, assets and priorities, prevention, growth, all of those things we're building on, which we've been doing anyway. So yeah, I'm going to be robust when somebody comes in and makes observations. I'm going to respect them making them. Councillor Cottingham, he's accusing me of putting a shield to you. I'm not going to do that. Oh, back to you.
Right. Councillor McKinnon, I would like just to pick up on one point which you made there. Within this report, Financial Improvement Plan, page 57, there's a whole list of actions which have originated from the SIPFA report. So to accuse us of ignoring the report is incorrect.
I did no such thing.
We have an action plan which will go in front of the Financial Improvement Group, FIG, independent review, to make sure we are delivering against these actions, which will have that scrutiny.
Well, Councillor Cottingham, Chair, through you, I've been instructed to go through you. Question for Councillor Cottingham, though, Chair. Councillor Cottingham mentioned the action plan. Can you tell me why the action plan says that you're going to demonstrate a response to this report by Q3 next year? We're in Q3 this year right now. We're talking a year away. You're going to be sleeping for a year. Why so long?
This action plan will start when the first meeting happens in the new year. So this is just the expected completion date currently being set. So the first governance of that FIG may well address the completion date. This is just initial proposal. This is not set in stone. So any project management is flexible to address the needs of the business. This is just an initial draft.
Okay. So it does sound to me then that an awful lot of the conclusions that SIPA have come up with, you're either not accepting or you're obfuscating. And that's pretty sad and pretty worrying.
I disagree with you completely. Don't make statements.
I'm not surprised. Councillor Brooks, this is the leader of the opposition speaking. Of course you disagree with me. That's part of the deal.
Good. I've
Do
disagreed.
you welcome scrutiny or not?
Move on. Off you go. What's your
Let's
next
go.
Next question.
Right. In the budget last February, the medium-term financial strategy said that we'd need 3 million for EFS this year, which we knew from the original award. At the Q2 update last year, 6.8 million, last quarter I should say, 6.2 million was the overspend against your own budget, the budget that you set. And now we're told that £88 million over the next 4 years has vanished. And you're going to demonstrate a response to this report in a year's time? This is well, it wasn't in the Q2 update last month, and it wasn't in the budget. It's gone somewhere. Is it down your back pocket? Where is it?
Excuse me,
Leader, can I?
Down your back pocket.
You know what I meant. Come on.
Draw that, Councillor
It's not in your. Is it under the desk? Is it over in the chair behind you?
Thank you.
Where is it?
Down my
Deary
back
me.
pocket. Get out of here.
Now, is that very professional? I don't think it is.
Nothing.
Now, let me wrap up. I think you'll be pleased.
You know, because I've been in touch with you, I've said we've had a terrible fair funding formula, and I will need your support from your group to push back a government to help get a proper funding for this council to make it more viable.
Councillor
You've heard
Brooks,
me say that.
you know I respect you a great deal as a person, and we got on well. I have to say that the response to this SIPFA report here is a disgrace. Now, you're not going to agree with that, but it is a disgrace in my view. There are damning criticisms here, and instead of showing the residents, do you know what? Yeah, they're onto something here. We need to get better. You're not doing that. You're saying, no, I disagree with that one. No, they're wrong. These are not political people. These are public finance experts. And the budget, the finances of West Berkshire Council are out of control, and they're getting worse. And you give no indication that you're willing to grasp the nettle and do something about it. It's a disgrace. And if I'd been leading an executive that had received this report from SIPFA, it would have resigned en masse.
Councillor McKinnon, talk about 6.8 million overspent. You were £8.1 million overspent in Q1 of 2022.
History lessons. And you made amendments every single year of those budgets asking us to spend more. Don't even think about it.
Now, I'm having mine as chair, and I'm entitled. You ran the reserves down to nothing.
Higher in 2023 than 19.
Your budget, year upon year upon year.
You're giving the residents a history lesson. They know you've got no answers.
To this council. So don't talk to me, because you're the architect, frankly.
Hang on a minute, leader. It's either our fault or it's every council in the country. Pick one.
You
cannot get away with that.
You're the architect of the problems that we are in today.
I'm the architect of the problems.
You started it, and unfortunately, we haven't got goodwill to all men tonight. Councillor Abbs, would you like to come in? You've been waiting patiently.
I'm slightly scared to, leader, to be honest. I mean, can you hold off on the gavel for a minute? Yeah, where do I go after that? The worry, it's a concern, so I'd like some assurance, which is what I'm looking for, to be honest. And yeah, I think we can completely accept that the funding formula that we're looking at is pretty awful. And in fact, if we look at other councils around the UK and look what some of the rumours are that's going on, there's some councils being given a special exception to increase their council taxes by anything up to 75%. Given what's in this report, can you give me any feeling, Ian, Jeff, any feeling at all about now that we have seen the initial model? It was only a few days ago, wasn't it, that it came in, and then looking at this report, which obviously would have been written before that, I assume. Where do we stand? Are we in any danger of going down a similar, having to go, right, we're going to have a referendum so that we can put up council acts? Or we actually think that this will allow us to have enough control to be able to go, yeah, okay, we can handle it going forward?
I can reiterate and Councillor Abbs, thank you very much for your question, and also confirm to residents we will not be pushing for any referendum to increase council tax above the statutory maximum. of 2.99% plus the 2% for adult social care. It is fair to say that the unfair funding review has been fairly catastrophic for us as a council. We're not alone in Berkshire. I think Bracknell have been equally hit hard. So it doesn't seem to be political in that respect. Using a formula based on deprivation seems to be very unfair, skewed. What we are seeing is a reduction in the business rates, which we will be allowed to keep. There will be a certain amount of top up to compensate that loss. However, that is going to reduce from, is it the general funding review? I think it's called. Going to go, sorry. Revenue support grant is going down from 27 million down to roughly 16 million in 2 years. So we lose 11 million pounds on top of the loss of the business rates, which we're allowed to retain by central government for business. For all our residents, we act as a debt collecting agent for central government for business rates. So they define the rules for business rates, and we then collect the debt, and then we're allowed to keep a certain element of that. We are facing unprecedented demand pressures on adult social care and children and family services, especially the actual unit rate cost. We have statutory obligations, and no one in this room would would want to move away from that, and that's the world we face.
If I may come back, I think we're being placed in an unbearable position, to be quite frank. And we're talking about deprivation, and this goes back to one of the comments I made about the mayoral layer. And even if we've got one, would we get any money? And I made the comment about shifting money from the south to the north. Well, this is what this formula basically does. So whether we have a mayor or not, I was shocked today when I was speaking to one of the officers about where I live, which is in Greenham. And I found out today that, in fact, I live now in an area with the highest level of deprivation for a child in West Berkshire. That was wonderful. That's the new David Wilson Homes estate for you. They've managed to create, that kind of scenario. So I really think we need to somehow get the government to pay attention to what they're doing to the councils. It isn't an individual councils. They are ripping the councils apart and trying to get them to take all the blame for all the actions, which are actually central government actions. I'm sorry that was a bit of a statement, but I'm starting to get pretty upset about what's going on.
And I think it's a bit, what's the word? Yesterday's press release talks about the fair funding review being able to support libraries, youth workers, the fabric of what councils provide, the nice stuff. And then we find ourselves in a big black hole. And I reiterate, we as a council will not be cutting those frontline services. We will find the money, and that money will probably be found through EFS.
I'm looking to get to the final contribution before we can summate. Councillor Marsh.
Just for the record, I agree with the comments that have been made about the funding formula, and indeed more generally about the consequences of 15 years of disastrous austerity policies on local government pursued by both the Conservative and now the Labour government. Most of the questions I wish to ask have been asked one way and another, and eloquently put by Councillor Abbs. I've just got 3 questions that haven't been covered. One is about where transformation fits into this picture. There's no mention, it's not much of a mention of it in the council's response to the report. It doesn't, for example, feature in the chart on page 50. CIPFA was extremely critical of transformation activities, saying they're siloed, no insufficient coordination, insufficient oversight and sizable slippage. So I've just wondered, given how much weight we've been putting on it as a way to ease the financial pressures, how transformation fits into this. My other 2 questions are it's a bit vague how this group is going to report, and I think it's important bearing in mind that it's going to meet in private, page 59, we know exactly how it's going to feed back information. Page 56 refers vaguely to executive and scrutiny. Does that mean it's going to come to the executive? Does that mean, can you give some picture of how, will it go through governance, for example, which would be quite a good place for it to go? And then following on from that, in the interests also of clarity and transparency, will we get the chance to update the Constitution, Councillor Brooks, to reflect this new body? That's it.
I'll take advice on that from the officers because it will be time limited. It won't last forever. I'll come back to you on that. Councillor Cottingham. Councillor McGinnon, I won't be taking you again, sir.
So, opportunity here to answer those questions. So transformation is across the entire organisation. You're quite right to say the fact that it shouldn't be siloed. It will come back to exec. We will be looking at the effectiveness of what transformation is. And going back to an early point, which we talked about regarding backing those winners and improving processes and savings, there will be a risk-based approach of making sure that we are going for those high ticket areas where we will deliver the best bang for our buck rather than just playing on the edges. The fact that we recognise there is a structural gap. We do recognise that the fact that things can be done more efficiently, more effectively, and it's getting, as I said, that oversight, independent oversight, to be able to give everyone reassurance that we are following best practice. I think from a governance perspective, I think it would be wise for us to be able to report back on a regular basis where we are on these actions. So the FIG group will have that oversight, be part of that governance, but also I think it'd be wise for that we report back to whatever forum that is, where we are, and the financial impact. So it'll probably come back through exec. And what was the last question? Was that for you?
That was for me. I took that on the Constitution. Okay, I'm going to summarise now. I'm not taking any more points. I think, Councillor Marsh, on page 50, transformation is threaded throughout those bodies, growth, prevention, assets, priorities, we can, culture, that's a cultural change, commercialisation. It threads through everything we do. We're not putting a box on there that says transformation, but that scrutiny are holding us to account. And on the 3rd of February, we're coming to explain savings that have already been generated through transformation and the programme going forward. So it's getting into the DNA, if you like, of the council, and it has to. Members, councils up and down the country are facing, well, probably more in the south now with all the fair funding formula, are facing a perfect storm. I know that officers who wouldn't say this aloud, but are saying, again, in numerous authorities, they've never seen it as difficult as it is now. The high needs block, which is growing to multi-millions of pounds and needs servicing, is just something that takes money straight out of our ability to provide services. On radio this morning, I was talking about the top 25 demand individuals with issues and challenges are now costing us over £13 million, 25 people. 5 years ago, that was under £5 million. The costs of providing safety for people have always been there, but the volume of people who need support is growing. We have an ageing demographic. We knew that was coming nationally, internationally, across Europe. We knew that was coming. It's arrived. It's arrived. And every year there are more people who need council support to live good lives. There are more children who are suffering and struggling. I think there's a certain consequence of the COVID lockdowns, frankly, that we are suffering from, but the cost of helping them is ferocious. And so we are in different times. And when any politician talks about how they did better, no politician from any party but ours has faced this level of demand and this level of financial pressure. Windsor and Maidenhead, Slough, Swindon, ourselves have needed to borrow money, which is another demand. It is another cost of borrowing extra financial support. A sort of overdraft facility, a borrowing facility has to be paid for. More money that isn't available for services. And frankly, the direction of travel, and I will say this now, is that if we go on, councils throughout the country like this, over the next 5, 6, 7 years, all of their council's money will be spent on adult social care and children, SEN services, EHCPs, education, most worthy causes, but there will be no money for roads outside of government grant, outside of CIL. There will be no money for libraries. There will be no money for sports centres. That will all go if the government does not enable us to fund ourselves and be funded properly. That is where we're heading, not as just West Berkshire, but as a nation. So let us remember the big picture here, which we are trying in our little picture within West Berkshire to manage, to continue to deliver good services, to continue to deliver libraries, better sports facilities. That is what we are facing. And we can have scraps across the chamber, and we can call reports a disgrace. We can do all of that political knockabout, but it does not get away from the fundamental point that local government finance is broken. And we're doing our best. And we will deliver good things, but we will need financial support. We will need borrowing facility to get us through this. The challenge to us from MHCLG is to do a medium-term financial plan that shows over 5 years we can come out of it, extraordinary financial support. That's our challenge, to say this can't go on forever. I was talking to Windsor and Maidenhead's leader earlier this week. They'll go up to £200 million in EFS on their direction of travel. This is unsustainable. But if it's the way of keeping the lights on, and that's what we're doing, we're borrowing money to keep the lights on, we're borrowing money to pay salaries. Government's done that for years. Government's done that for decades. Local government, local authorities have not. We'll be moving into that space. It's not a great place to be. What am I not doing? I'm not lamenting our lot and saying, oh, it's terrible here, because we are doing everything we can and delivering some very good things. But don't attack us for something that is going on nationally. Don't attack us because we have had a terrible fair funding outcome, which has made life tremendously worse from a very poor situation in the first place.
Accept the SIPFA report then.
Appropriate. I'm moving on. Thank you very much, members. I think I have to vote on that. I've seconded it. Councillor Cottingham has proposed it. All those in favour? Thank you. Well, that was unanimous. And we have the next one, which I hope will not be quite as spicy, which is Councillor McCann introducing his Building Control Assurance and Update Report. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Chair. This report is really for information and to note. It sets the scene on a tragic incident in Grenfield and the mindset of local government building control versus external private building control people, and how the two systems work or didn't work. The proposal is set out quite clearly examples of where the system has failed, and the government has brought forward recommendations about the building safety levy and other administrative checks and balances which are necessary to move forward in the future. If I was to sum this up in a sentence, it would be that building control is not a consultancy service to builders, it is an inspection service to builders. And that's the mindset change that the report is looking to introduce. I fully support the ambitions and the aspirations of the reports that these are based on. And West Berkshire will do its bit with our joint services in Wokingham, who actually provide the service, because even if you transfer a service to another authority, you still have to have be responsible for your part of the pie, shall we say. So that's quite a brief introduction, Chair. Thank you.
Councillor McCann, we don't need to seconder for this. We're noting it, aren't we? It's an information item. Any other members like to contribute on the executive side? On the opposition benches or in the team's waiting room, so to speak? Nobody indicating. I think you're good. You're good with that, Councillor McCann. Thank you very much. Well done, sir. Onwards we go. Item 9, Youth Council for West Berkshire. Councillor Heather Codling will propose this, I believe.
Yep. So
and I'll second it. And over to yourself, please.
Right. I hope no young people were actually watching the earlier bit. It might put them off. I'm really looking forward to establishing a youth council in West Berkshire. And it's not just a short-term initiative, it's a strategic investment in the future of our community. By giving young people a formal voice in decision-making, we will develop civic responsibility, leadership skills and social engagement that will last a lifetime. This aligns with our council strategy and reflects best practice models supported by draft terms of reference and a code of conduct. The Youth Forum will create an elected cohort of informed, engaged citizens who understand governance and contribute positively to society. Research shows that early involvement in civic processes leads to higher voter turnout, stronger community ties, and reduced social isolation amongst young people. Over time, this initiative will help build a generation that is more resilient, collaborative, and committed to shaping a thriving West Berkshire. To deliver this successfully, dedicated officer support is essential. 2 staff members will attend each meeting and manage key activities such as elections, team building events and annual conference, campaigns, social media and member support. With an estimated 21 meetings a year, this commitment equals 1 full-time officer. So we are planning on recruiting a participation and engagement worker. This will be critical for it. Affiliation with the National Youth Council, once it's re-established, could further amplify young voices by enabling participation in the Youth Parliament. In the long term, this Youth Council will strengthen democratic engagement, foster community cohesion and ensure that the next generation is equipped to lead. It is a bold, forward-thinking step towards inclusive governance and a stronger, more connected West Berkshire. I recommend this to you.
I'm excited by this. I'll talk a bit further when I summate as seconder. Any other comments from the executive members? Stuart Gawley.
Yeah, I've just a few comments really, Chair. I think this is an excellent proposal that Councillor Codling set forward, and it's something that I'm particularly passionate about as well. And no offence to the rest of my council colleagues around the room, but as the youngest councillor at West Berkshire Council, I think it really does highlight the need for bringing a different perspective and I'm 40, by the way, so I don't consider myself particularly youthful, and I certainly don't feel like it when I walk up the stairs. So I do think it's really important that we try to engage with younger folk around West Berkshire and really listen to their input. I think there is always sometimes a challenge that young folk, and I don't wish to speak for them necessarily, but I think sometimes they can be listened to but not necessarily heard. And I think that's a challenge that we need to face, and this youth council will help deliver that, I believe. And as someone that has 2 young children myself, 4 and 6, I one day hope that they will be interested in their community. And I do really believe, and I know we talked about democratic deficit a few weeks ago as part of the strategic moral authority debate, that hopefully this can get people engaged with politics. And it doesn't have to be about politics, it has to be about community and that kind of social value that all of that brings together. So I think this is excellent. I think I'm really excited to see it come to fruition. So absolutely has my support.
Thank you, Councillor Gawley. Councillor Marsh.
Thank you. As you know, I rarely make party political comments in the chamber, but as the by far the most popular party among young people, you'd expect the Greens to support this proposal, and we do. I've just got a couple of questions. I mean, I think I completely agree with the points that have been made, although I'm not sure about the phrase young folk, that giving your age away a bit there, I think, Stuart, but anyway. I agree with the points that have been made. I think that the contributions made by the young people who are now on the scrutiny committee at the first meeting last week were excellent and shows the value of this approach. And what with votes at 16, if the government sticks to that commitment, then it fits into that pattern, as well as as young people become more politically aware, which many of them already are. And I've got a 13-year-old, so I'm slightly further advanced along that road. Councillor Gawley, I've got a couple of questions. I don't really. I'd just like to know why this has been brought to the exec. I would have thought it was a natural thing to bring to full council. I'm sure members will have views, and it's a nice thing in a way for the council to consider as a full council. And that hasn't happened, unfortunately. But can you at least give a commitment that it will be brought to the full council and people have a chance to make their comments and views? Because I think actually, despite my opening remarks, this is an all-party thing that we can all get behind. Secondly, is the spend panel likely to agree to something that involves the appointment of, Yes,
already done.
Thank you. And thirdly, and I think the answer to this is probably yes, this will be able to continue if Ridgeway Council goes ahead as a West Berkshire Council. So although at the moment it's tied to West Berkshire, would I be right in thinking it's not, it can continue as a West Berkshire body even when there's a Ridgeway Council, because it's not meant to shadow the council in that sense. If that's my understanding of it, perhaps you can enlighten me. Councillor Codling, thank you.
I believe that's the case, but we would take advice as and when, if and when Ridgeway happens. So it may still just address the local areas.
Councillor Marsh, it is an executive function. I'm not prepared to delay the decision to get on and implement it. Perhaps we'll organise a debate when it first meets as a report back to council. But right now we need to crack on with this. Councillor Abs.
Yeah, thanks very much, Leader. On page 79, financial, I noted in the report there are a number of additional costs. Great. So I then start reading the rest of the report. I see an additional cost for the full-time employee of 28,142. It says to 32,061. That's down as the salary. I don't know whether that's the package, and I don't know what the rest of the fiscal implications of this body running are. So I'm a little nervous about not knowing what the real cost is. Doesn't mean I'm against it, before anybody misinterprets. I just would like to understand the actual cost for the whole thing.
Look, don't be worried. I pushed the chief executive to say this is an important thing to do. With all the other pressures, we have to develop people who will play a part in democracy. And we're talking 30 to 40,000 pounds for an officer, but that's not dedicated to the youth council. This is not a 5-day-a-week job. And I'm telling you now, there will be other youth initiatives. There will be a twice-yearly youth forum where any young people can come along and talk to council. Councillors, it won't be here, it'll be somewhere like the Waterside Centre, where they feel safe and comfortable and can come along and talk to us. There'll be more than one competition launched, a debating competition. So an individual makes that happen, and I think is extremely healthy for young people who, of course, as they get older, they tend to eschew the Green Party and they become Liberal Democrats. So, we look forward to the direction of travel of young people getting involved with politics. Councillor Taylor.
Thank you. Yeah, I fully support this as well. I think it's a great idea, and I wish it every success. When I joined the council 2.5 years ago, there was a youth council in existence, and I remember in my induction session, I asked questions about this and was invited to attend meetings of the Youth Council. Now, I think I attended 2, and then, although I was never told that it had then disappeared or ceased to exist, I found out some months later that that had happened. Now, I'm slightly worried because I didn't, and I have to admit, I've only just read this report during this meeting. I didn't see any analysis in there as to why the past Youth Council had failed. So I hope we are learning, perhaps by any mistakes that were made. Now, the Youth Councils that I attended, there were quite a number of young people there, but I have to admit, my main recollection is there were also a very, very small number of councillors there, including myself, and we did spend rather a long time speaking. Now, that is addressed to some extent in there. There is a time limit, and I hope that will be strictly adhered to. Secondly, the meeting was being chaired by a council officer, and from what I can see on the old Youth Council, there didn't seem to be a chair elected from the young people itself. Now, I can see in the terms of reference here that there would be a chair, secretary, and so on. It's not absolutely clear, although I think this is in the intention, that those officers will be from the young people. It's not going to be a council officer that is elected to chair the meeting. So if that could be clarified. One other point, and this is, I think it says that young people on the Youth Council will be encouraged to attend and make representations at the scrutiny committee. Just wondered if there was any conflict in the fact that we've just appointed 2 young people to sit on the scrutiny committee. It occurred to me that it might be a good idea if we invited those 2 new members. And I have to say, I was at the meeting, I think last week, where they participated for the first time and made a very considerable contribution. Perhaps they should be invited to join the Youth Council. Perhaps it could almost work both ways. But aside from those comments, I fully support this, and I'm quite happy to something I'm personally prepared to get involved in. I can hope I can help make it a success. Thank you.
Councillor Codling, can you pick up some of those points, please?
Yeah. I understand that the past one didn't fail. It was only short-term funding post-COVID, and so it wasn't able to continue. But this one is a dedicated post to enable this to go forward. And yes, a young person will chair it. It will be run by the young people, but with support from this officer and other officers when needed, including they will be getting training and support. Now, the 2 young people on the scrutiny may well wish to stand for this Youth Council. So, it's going to be down to them.
Councillor Dominic Berwick.
Thank you, Leader. Thank you, Councillor Codling. Some interesting points raised by Councillor Taylor. And it's kind of, I've got a simpler question, which embodies much of indirectly what he said. Why didn't this paper come to our meeting of Children and Young People Scrutiny only 2 weeks ago?
Because we brought it here.
So the Children and Young People Scrutiny didn't have an opportunity to scrutinise the paper. Councillor Pemberton was just talking just now to reassure me that the progress of the Mayoral Strategic Authority would, in respect of children and young people, would come through scrutiny. Why didn't this paper come through Children and Young People Scrutiny?
Because we brought it here and we want to get on with it. Councillor Codling?
Yeah, I think it's just an expediency. We want to move on with it quickly.
We only met 2 weeks ago.
Yeah. Councillor Berwick, asked and answered. Councillor McCann.
Thank you, Chair. I support this as an aspiration and as something that we should be looking to deliver throughout the council. My question is a little bit more of, most of the public, adult public, have a smaller understanding on how we work as an organisation and how local government organisations actually work. In order for them to have real input and not talk about things that are not getting bogged down in things we can't fix, will the potential successful candidates for this be shown and walked through the type of services that we provide, the level of services we provide, the sort of work that we do, because I've got a feeling that they might come in and say, oh, you've got to change this, you've got to change that. And actually local government is pretty tailored in that respect. So it's more about what support will they be given to comprehend and understand what our duties, roles and functions are through this process, Chair. That was all. Thank you.
Councillor Colling will take that. I mean, I'm sure that they will come in and say, why don't you do this and why don't you do that? And like many councillors, they will come up against the legal position, the statutory position and the like, but they'll learn from that as well. It is important that they put motions down that we do something about. You know, so might need a little bit of guidance to say, you know, yes, we will be able to build a velodrome, but perhaps in a 20 years' time, sort of thing. We'll see. Councillor Codling.
Yeah, as I said, there will be full training for these young people when they come on here. But actually, maybe they'll have some good ideas and tell us what we should be doing and enable us to do that.
I've got Councillor McKinnon.
Well, thanks, Leader. Just following up your response to Councillor Bowick's question there about why the paper wasn't brought to children and young people's scrutiny, and your answer was because we brought it here. Is that really treating members with due respect?
Okay. Answered. No further answer to give. Moving on. Do you have anything else, Councillor McKinnon? No. Moving on. Okay. So we have what I think is a very, very good news item, and we must get on with it, and we must get young people involved in politics. We must get young people involved in their communities. We must get young people involved in having a sway and influence on their council. There's a lot to do, and the sooner this is, you know, constructed and implemented, the better. Yeah, we probably might have looked harder to save the old one, but it fell by the wayside. Let's get this one going. Let's see. I think we're learning from some of the issues of the old one. I think it's very good news, and I'm glad that the Newbury Weekly News picked it up today. Other media outlets, I'm sure, will do so as well. So I'm looking for a vote on this. You had a seconder and myself proposing, Councillor Codling. All those in favour of this? Excellent. Thank you very much indeed. Okay, item 10, the Sports Hub. Response to Resources in Place Scrutiny Committee Task and Finish Group Report. Councillor Foote is introducing this. You'll be proposing it. I'll second it.
Thanks very much, Chair. I don't intend to actually talk to this in any great length, because I think it is a comprehensive document which I know members will have read. First of all, if I may, I think I'd like to thank members of the Task and Finish group, because there was a huge amount of work that's obviously gone into this piece, and its chair, Councillor Culver. I think really we could go straight more or less to the recommendations that are listed, and I think I'd like to say that we will accept, and we have agreed, as you can see from the table, a large number of those recommendations. There's one particular one which I think I'd like to draw members' attention to, and that's item 4, which is hours spent on capital projects by business as usual staff must be recorded, etc. And you'll see in the next column that that is partially agreed by the council. And I'd just like to say that we're looking at that, and we're looking at how we can record officers' time in a fit for purpose manner, Chair. And that is something that I think we need to comment on. The other conclusions and recommendations that the report highlights, as you'll see, we agree to those. I think the final conclusions, which are listed paragraph 7.1 to 7.8, again, you know, they're fairly self-explanatory, and we would have no problem with those. So I think it would be quite in order for members to accept this report. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you. Other members of the executive? I'm just going to, I think we should go through the recommendations, certainly in 2. You've mentioned 7.8 as well. We've said we will be supporting those, but I think it's worthwhile just talking about what we are accepting as recommendations, Councillor Foote. So when I come back to you later, I'm sorry to ask you, but I think you should walk through the recommendations. On page 113, you know that number 4 and number 5 we'll accept in part, but you need to explain a little bit more about them. So, for instance, the quarterly status report for all Tier 1 projects and appendix to the Finance Quarterly Monitoring Reports to the Executive, we do not believe that's the right vehicle for that. We consider that status reports for Tier 1 projects should be brought during the project. We haven't decided on the frequency of those yet. So that's an understanding of the point, but not a full acceptance of the recommendation. And you've mentioned time recording as well, which, as you know, we're not going to say to an officer, well, you put 20 minutes that you spent on that project and then 20 minutes you went to the loo and then 20 minutes you came back to the project, and that sort of stupidity. But if an officer is on a project for a year, it's fair for their time to be accredited to that project for the year. So just some points really. And the thing to remember, and it's referred to in number 6, quite a lot of these recommendations were made in a task and finish group that I sat on the London Road Industrial Estate issue in 2020. And we've made a lot of these recommendations. Then some of them are coming back again. And we've now got to review these recommendations as much as reviewing the projects to see that we have actually taken the medicine we're agreeing to, and not end up in 3 years' time and have another task and finish group that says we should do all these things. That'll be the difference. Are we actually walking the walk as we talk the talk? So other members from the opposition side? Nobody indicating at the moment. Councillor Abbs first up.
Yeah, just I guess kind of minor, really. In the I'm just my mic is on, so oh, okay. I know I speak very softly these days. It's the gentle side of me coming out.
A big stick, wasn't it?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. Anyway, I was looking at the background and 5.2, and it says 1 to 6. What the task and group finish group has 6 objectives. What I'm struggling to find in the conclusion is a clear indication of how whether those objectives were met or not met. I see an awful lot of information about recommendations and this, but no. For instance, to determine whether the sports hub project was value for money, well, if you ask me as an individual, I'd say it's a complete waste of money. But I was hoping to see in the report some simple responses to the objectives that might be more easily be absorbed.
Well, I mean, it's not the executive's report.
No, indeed.
So I'm going to leave your question hanging out there. The chair of that scrutiny committee is not here tonight. You make a reasonable point, but I'll leave it there. Councillor Marsh.
Thank you very much. Well, as a member of the task and finish group, and in the absence of the chair, Councillor Culver, who did a marvellous job, as was graciously acknowledged earlier, and I noticed that Councillor Reid, who also did a fine job, is in the building also. I do have a few questions. And we welcome the fact that the executive has accepted quite a large number of recommendations and that action is needed. My first question is, there is a bit of nothing to see here, and the phrase "in place" appears quite a lot. It wasn't in place at the time that this affair was taking place over several years. So are you saying that it is now in place and has been put in place since the change of administration? Because there's a number of ones that we didn't think had been in place, or we wouldn't have made 20 odd recommendations to the contrary. Shall I give the rest of the questions, or do you want to go that as we go along?
I'll take that first, because I want to give you an assurance that they're being put in place if they're not in place already.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Okay, but I won't swear they're all in place at the moment. Although Councillor Reid is now working on a further task and finish group about project management, which are much more fresh than this old hoary one that is now 5 years old, looking at care director, but looking at iTrent, which was only implemented last year. And that task and finish group will come back and say, because you can benchmark against this, Councillor Reid, and talking directly to you, sir, are they in place? And I look for your observations on that. So work in progress, sir.
Thank you very much. Because it would be a shame if these recommendations went the way of some of the ones of the LRIE task and finish, which, as we say in the report, were not all implemented. I have a question for Councillor Foote, specifically on recommendation 7, which is about working in partnership with local groups. And I just want to ask you if you'll consider, in view of the acceptance of recommendation 7, will you consider working in partnership with community football groups, as for example happens in some other councils such as Winchester, by offering a long-term lease on Faraday Road and leveraging funds from the FA and Football Foundation to upgrade the facilities there?
Well, yes, as you'll see in the report, it does mention that we're quite happy to do that, providing there's a robust business case that stacks up properly. And as we speak, we do have good communications with local sports groups regarding, for example, Faraday Road. And one of the points I was going to make, actually, was that this report is very helpful because it does inform projects of a similar sort of nature regarding sports provision, shall I say, going forward. So we can refer back to this, and we are very mindful of the recommendations that are listed. And as I said at the beginning, which I apologise if it was a bit of a cursory sort of skip through and not in sufficient detail, but the thing is that there isn't a great deal of disagreement, if you like, with this. We can look at various aspects of it that we can adjust and tweak, and we would think that we could make it fit for purpose, if you like. But you'll see, the vast majority of the recommendations we agree with. And yeah, this is a document that we can use as a template and refer back to. So I hope that answers your question.
I think also we've said in this chamber to a question from the public, I think it was, that we will undertake a market engagement exercise to see what community groups may want to come forward to run the Faraday Road football pitch, the facility. And we will be doing that. I think I've said also, I've been a little bit concerned about community interest companies lasting. So you get a lot of volunteers and enthusiasts, and for several years it could work very well, but they can run out of steam. And guess where the problem comes back then? It comes back to the council. So when we do that market engagement exercise, I give due not warning, but I state that anybody coming forward needs to show a very robust business plan. Councillor Marsh.
Almost there. Two more points. One is just an observation, really. Recommendation 16 and 17 about the paperwork and about tracking stuff. We were very concerned indeed about the lack of records that were being kept, and some of them seemed to disappear when contractors were involved and were with them rather than with the council, or when somebody left the council, the knowledge of what had happened or not happened seemed to go with them. So I'll just take your assurance that you gave earlier that that is either rectified or being rectified, because it was a matter of considerable concern. I'm sure that will be considered by Councillor Reid's group. And then finally, recommendations 22, which is about the and you're not going to like this very much, I don't think, but the contradictory advice that was given, which was a big thorny issue throughout the whole Monks Lane saga, and remains one, really, bearing in mind that the council won a judicial review on the basis that Monks Lane was a replacement for Faraday Road, then the very next week put out a paper saying it wasn't, or are you happy that you share the concern of the group, the task and finish group, that dichotomy has never really been resolved, or do you think it has been resolved to your satisfaction?
Hold on, I think you got your chronology wrong. Both those meetings had taken place, and the court actually knew that. And the court said, asked and answered, we understand that, frankly, whether it's replacement or not, the judge was I won't say dismissive, but that wasn't something he latched onto and was troubled about. So I'm sorry, you do need correcting on that. Look, you're going back 5 years. You should. I want to look at project control. I want to look at how we manage documentation. What's our document control? I want to take all of this work, which frankly should have been done in 2020 after that task group said it should have been done, right? I want to take those messages out of it. And I'm not going to be drawn into this meeting happened there, this meeting happened, he said here, she said there. Tens of thousands of pounds have gone in officer time, going back to he said, she said, on certain days. I want to take the learnings, project management learnings that are here, and they're good, and we need to do them. Who else have we got? Anybody in the waiting room? Thank you. Back to you, Councillor Foot.
Yes, thanks, Chair. I mean, I think I would echo what you said, that this is, and I said it earlier, it acts like a template, this piece of work. And this is, I can assure members that this is something that is front and centre of our work, if you like, looking at Faraday Road and the ambitions we have for that site. So, yeah, there are lots of learnings and we are working through those. Yeah, I would like to recommend that we accept this, this paper. Thank you.
And Councillor Marsh, will you tell Councillor Culver, we've accepted an awful lot of these, and they're all to do with doing better in the future. So that's my seconding. Members, we have a proposer, Councillor Foot. I will thank Councillor Reid and the Scrutiny Committee and the task group, including yourself, Councillor Marsh, for the work that's gone on there. Taken quite a long time, taken up a lot of resource. We'll make sure it was worth it. All those in favour? Thank you very much. We're now into the member questions. And our first one that I think Mr. Radbourne will get on screen rapidly will be from Councillor Taylor to Councillor Codling.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor, for your question. As the leader confirmed only a few months ago in this chamber, the project remains firmly within our forward plan, and we're continuing to look at the design phase. We recognise this project is important to families and children in the area. However, the proposed land grab by the Labour-led Reading Borough Council has created significant uncertainty. This is a major investment, and it would be wholly unjust for West Berkshire residents to shoulder the financial burden of a school that could ultimately fall under Reading's jurisdiction. Therefore, I must ask you, Councillor Taylor, if these boundary changes proceed, will Reading Borough Council commit to covering the borrowing costs required to deliver the school? Without such a guarantee, it would be irresponsible to place this expense on our taxpayers. Do you have a supplementary question?
Well, firstly, can I say I will take that question to Reading Council and come back to you with an answer. Can I suggest, obviously, you're right, I have asked this question before, though I think not in this, certainly not in this setting. Could I suggest that we have a meeting with the school head, chairman of the governors, myself, welcome our leader if he could attend as well, because you indicated that you would do so earlier this year, just to get everything out on the table. We've had a discussion fairly recently on this, and I'm concerned there are other factors at play here as well. But I'll come back to an answer to your question, but I think let's sit down with the school and see if we can determine exactly where we are with this, because this project was originally approved, I think it must be something like 4 years ago.
Well, it might have been approved in principle. You've heard our commitment to do it. Certainly, I think, Heather, we would go to the school at their invite. Absolutely, no problem whatsoever. We go to lots of schools. We were at Thatcham Park only less than 2 weeks ago. Look, in the event that our good residents of Tilehurst have to go to under the auspices of Reading Borough Council. And many of them don't want to. There would be, Councillor Taylor, an asset sort of swap, an asset and borrowing, loans, liabilities that have to be all of that go on. And it would have to happen from Oxford City Council as well, Oxford County Council. And that's all the stuff that is washed up if and when local government review takes place, as Berkshire County Council were. And we're still paying some mortgages for Berkshire County Council 27 years later. But I did say this to Councillor Terry last Friday when I was at a meeting of the South East Strategic Leaders. So it's out there already, and I'll be looking for the chief exec to work with other chief execs just to game that a little bit, just to look at how that would work in the event LGR comes about. Some way away, it may not happen, but we need to start getting an angle on this. And if the debt from the school's development, which we could perhaps crack on with, the design, which takes a while, as you know, but with the assurance that the school comes into being 3-4 years down the line, Councillor Taylor, these things do take time, a new school, newly developed school, but the land grab goes ahead, the liability goes with it. I think that's absolutely logical, but look forward to coming to the school. We've been to Springfields over there, haven't we? We've been to Birchwood, Brookfields. We get about, Heather and I, on a double act. So, yeah. Okay, thank you. Next one up is Councillor Bowick to Councillor Denise Gaines.
Thank you for your question, Councillor Bowick. What is a reasonable interval will depend on the circumstances of each individual case, such as the complexity of the application and whether the application is contentious, whether things have changed on the ground, and whether there have been any changes to members of the committee or updated information from statutory consultees. All of these elements will have a bearing on the timescales between a site visit and the committee in which the application is heard. Ultimately, the planning committee must satisfy themselves that they have sufficient informed to make a decision on the application, and the officers will support the committee with this. Whilst there is no legal requirement for committee members to visit a committee site visit is normally arranged so that members have a full appreciation for the proposed development in context. Typically, a committee site visit is undertaken the week preceding the committee's meeting. Occasionally, a site visit may be undertaken, but the application is deferred to a later meeting. In these circumstances, it will be a matter for the committee's chairman, in consultation with the lead officer, to decide whether a further committee site visit would be appropriate. Do you have a supplementary?
Thank you for that. Yes, I do have a supplementary. And I know I've tried to ask questions about these matters before and have been rebutted. So I'm going to ask a question around policy rather than relate a question to a specific application. So I hope I don't get shut down like I did just now by Councillor Brooks. So an example is a recent call-in that I made on two related applications in June. The site visit took place on the 1st of October. The call-ins were listed in the agenda the following week. They were pulled. They've been pulled from two subsequent meetings of the Eastern Area Planning Committee. I wrote on the 3rd of December to the service director to try to find out what's happening with these applications, and wrote to you as well, Councillor Gaines, and I still have had no response. Is this acceptable to you as the portfolio holder for planning?
I will not be privy necessarily to exactly why an application has been delayed from the site visit or the call-in to the actual committee. There was obviously a reason for it. There may be several reasons for it, but as I've explained earlier on, it will depend on the circumstances, and each individual case needs to be taken on its own merit. There's obviously a very good reason why this application hasn't come to committee yet, and I'm sure that we will. I'll ensure that you do get an answer to that. Yes, I'm getting the nod from the service director. Sorry, the executive director even. Sorry, I just demoted you, Claire. In that case, thank you.
Thank you, councillor. It's just a shame I had to bring it up in a public meeting. I would have welcomed a response earlier.
Councillor Howell Wollaston. Is he in the good? So that's to Councillor Stuart Gawley, please.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Councillor Worston, for the question. I think first off, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank residents for their flexibility and positive approach to this change. I absolutely recognise that moving to free weekly bin collections has been a significant change and may feel inconvenient for some residents. I'm a resident here as well, and I know that getting used to that new process can be a challenge. However, the data so far shows that most households are coping well and the change is delivering positive results, but I do acknowledge it is early days. So some examples, because it does relate to your question more substantively, is around that food waste recycling participation has increased from 49% in March to 65% in November, with tonnage collected up 25%, and that's a 196 tonne increase in October and November compared to the same months last year. Black bin waste is down 18%, which is 821 tonnes less compared to the same period last year. Plastic bottles, pots, tubs, trays and food and drink cans has increased by 17%. That's an extra 61 tonnes on the same period last year. Paper and card recycling has increased by 6%. It's an extra 62 tonnes. At Household Waste Recycling Centre, there's only been a small increase in black bin waste, which has been delivered to those, around 20 tonnes for those couple of months, which is relatively small compared to the 821 reduction. And as assurance, officers completed a survey in November that shows that only 3% of properties have had their bin lid open or have presented an excess bag at the collection day, which is no more than when we're on a 2-weekly cycle. So I do have a strong assurance there that this process is settling in well. But again, as I say, it's early days, and I would absolutely say to residents, if you have got concerns, please do reach out to our waste team. So that links into your question around where the cost savings coming from. So I think I've discussed this previously, but the anticipated savings are around £150,000 per year this year. Part saving do not come from reductions in vehicles in resource. They will be achieved from lower disposal costs due to reduced landfill and energy recovery. So, for example, we will have to pay less tax on that 821 tonnes, but an increased income from recyclables materials as recycling rates improve. And as we've said, we've seen significantly positive results in our recycler at this point so far. So income will go up, tax will go down, therefore generating a saving. But again, just want to reiterate that we are extremely thankful for the way that residents have embraced this change so far. And again, please do get in contact if you've got concerns. Do you have a supplementary question?
Yeah, thanks, Councillor Gawley. I've already read the press release and seen the stuff in New Weekly News, which is what you just basically repeated. Surely the improvement in food waste and other improvements in waste that can be recovered could have been achieved by public education. The issue here is, where's the £150,000 saving? And I don't think you really clearly explained that. Right, because let me finish. Despite that, we had a consultation, wide consultation, and the vast majority of people didn't want to go to 2-3 weekly collection, and you ignore that completely. It is inconveniencing many of our residents, and I would like to ask you, can we please return to the old system, because I cannot see what the overall benefit is to the council.
I think you're right, there was a significant consultation. And I believe 52% said they could make that change with support. And I think we've demonstrated on a number of occasions how and where we offer that support. And we have continued, and in fact, actually, we've had over 1,100 contacts with residents in the lead up to this change at drop-in sessions around the districts. There's that public engagement bit you talk about. We visited a number of schools, and I can't remember off the top of my head now, but a significant amount of schools over the last 12 months to inform and educate around recycling. And I do feel that I've articulated where that savings coming from, and that is the income generated by the increase in recycling rates, which we've demonstrated here this evening, and also the reduction in that black bin waste. Again, I feel that we've demonstrated that this evening. But I would also highlight, and I will also draw your attention to the Labour government's upcoming legislation that they wish to introduce, the expansion of the emissions trading scheme. And if we carry on doing what we were doing, we were in the top 10% worst waste producing authorities in the country, we would have an extra £1.4 million estimated tax bill to have to pay. Tonight we've heard about the significant financial challenges this council face. And I guess my question would be, would we be happy to carry on paying £1.4 million in managing waste, which we've got plenty of other excellent streams available to do that, or help support the most vulnerable in our society? So in answer to your question, no, I don't believe we will go back to that old 2 weekly collection. Many councils are already on that journey now. Many councils have got in contact with me to ask, how have you done it? How are you delivering it? What results are you seeing? We've seen over the border in Wiltshire, and I believe also Swindon are moving that way. And I think many more councils will start to move towards a 3 weekly bin collection or reduced capacity in some form to drive up those recycling rates and protect those absolutely essential and vital services like adult social care and children's services, where I believe £1.4 million would be better off spent. Thank you for your supplementary question.
Members, we're at the end of this meeting. It's the last public meeting of this year, to my knowledge, before somebody tells me there's some meeting next week. For the hundreds and hundreds of people who've been watching at home, they will have seen some spicy conversations, some disagreements, some politics. I hope that they all have a very good Christmas, a very happy New Year. I hope all those hundreds understand that Councillor McKinnon and I will go out for the occasional drink, and so will members of the administration go out with Councillor Marsh, Councillor Abbs, and everybody will, in another place, be very friendly to each other as is appropriate, except Councillor Abbs. Who just, for those at home, just sort of screwed his face up the idea of that. Do have a good break. In terms of the council, our staff have worked very hard and continue to work hard under increasing pressure. It doesn't get easier, and I thank every one of them profusely for all their work. And I know it gets tense at times. I know they feel the pressure as we do as politicians, but I hope that they believe that we are very supportive and grateful, as are the residents, for what they do. And for all the brickbats we get, we also get quite a lot of compliments too, to staff and occasionally to members. So do have a lovely break, and we'll see you in the new year, if not before. Thank you, members.